Late 19th century, 1880. You stumble in off the road, worn out, mouth dry, pockets empty after some hard days. The shaky saloon door swings open. Smoke hangs in the air. Laughter cuts through the noise. Cards slide across the table. Coins change hands. In your coat lining, there's just one crumpled bill left. $1. And here's the hook. How far can that single dollar take you in a frontier bar? The answer isn't just in a shot of whiskey. There's more game happening behind the counter. In lands where gold and guns set the pace, it's worth starting with the price of a night. In the second half of the 19th century, a single dollar carried more weight than it seems. It was worth somewhere between $30 and $40 today. With that amount, we could cover a simple dinner, a tank of gas, or a few movie tickets. Back then, though, the same piece of paper stretched in unexpected ways. In many towns, cash was scarce. When bills disappeared, trades, bets, and above all, a little sack of gold dust took their place. Having a crisp bill or a silver coin was like holding a pass to whatever came next. Fun, comfort, or trouble. All you had to do was choose where to point your boots. Almost always, the path led to the saloon. Far beyond the drinks, it worked as the social heart of the frontier. In small towns, it was also the post office, the courtroom, and, if needed, the safe. Around its tables, contracts were sealed with a handshake. Elections were decided with the last toast. And reputations rose or fell under everyone's eyes. For cowboys fresh off the trail, miners with golden dust under their nails, and travelers looking for conversation, that was the first open door. $1 slid across the worn counter bought more than a drink. It bought time. It gave you the right to cards, music, a bath, maybe even a seat at the poker table. With luck, it brought company. With bad luck, it brought trouble. Because between gold and guns, every choice was a gamble. And every gamble turned into a story, paid in cash, in gold dust, or whatever you had at hand. Walking into an Old West saloon with $1 in your pocket meant facing the same choice as almost every traveler. Whiskey. Not the smooth stuff we think of today, but a harsh alcohol, quickly boosted with tobacco, gunpowder, or pepper to give you courage. A shot cost 5 or 10 cents. In practice, that dollar turned into 10 to 20 glasses that burned on the way down. Beer went for a nickel a glass and seemed like a better deal. The sensible ones saved part of their money for the next day. But that didn't always happen. After weeks driving cattle, many cowboys leaned on the bar and ordered round after round. Before long, they were singing off-key, collapsing on the floor, or caught up in a shootout that didn't forgive. $1 there didn't just buy drinks. It bought luck, risk, and the kind of night some never came back from. If the drinks didn't call you in, the bar still had another promise: gambling. At the tables, the roulette wheels, and the card games, saloons pulled in a fat slice of the money. All it took was trading $1 for chips to sit down, get the right cards, and imagine that with a stroke of luck, that dollar could turn into 2, 3, maybe enough to buy a horse. The illusion was simple and shined like polished brass. But the spin of the chips had an owner. Most of the time, the house ended the night in the black. Faro, in particular, was a crooked game. Full of tricks, it lured in confident cowboys and sent back only a handful of winners. Professionals drifted from table to table watching for the smallest slip, making their month's pay out of a ranch hand's wages. That's how legends were born, like Doc Holliday, who would sit down with a single dollar pulled from a worker's pocket and walk out with a full payday. The message was clear. For $1, you bought a seat and the dream of fortune. In practice, most nights what you left with was a short story and a lesson that stung your wallet. And when the dust settled and the piano went quiet, one truth remained: the house knows how to wait. Western saloons didn't live on cards and whiskey alone. They were stages for music, dancing, and different kinds of encounters. Some nights were quiet, others more daring. With a 25-cent coin, you could buy a ticket for a dance with one of the girls. With half $1, you secured her attention for hours. Many of these places had rooms upstairs, attached to the saloon, where the conversation could continue for a higher price. By the standards of the time, it wasn't cheap. But if a cowboy saved $1, he could get more than a few steps to the sound of the piano. It was a risky deal. The girls knew how to bargain, quick with a smile and just as quick with the purse. Plenty of cowboys woke up with lighter pockets. Still, after weeks on the trail, dust in their teeth and silence in camp, that dollar felt like it opened a window into another life, even if just for one night. The owners knew the math and made profit on every bill exchanged at the bar. For now, think of the saloons as a pause, a place to forget the road, swap stories, and test your luck. The rest of the night was still to come. Imagine you weren't looking for trouble. That dollar could buy you small pleasures. At the counter, cigars went for 10 or 15 cents. Bags of tobacco cost about the same. Smoking wasn't just a habit, it was part of the cowboy's outfit, as visible as the hat. Around the poker table, sharing a cigar carried the same weight as sharing a drink, sealing quick alliances. On the shelves, there were also matches, chewing tobacco, and a few snacks. Saloons knew how to seduce without hurry. Many put out free snacks, always salty, pickles, sausages, bread, meant to pull you into another drink. The same dollar covered several trips to the buffet, as long as your mug stayed full of beer. Another door led to more practical options. Some saloons included hotels, restaurants, or bathhouses. With a single bill, you could secure a hot, simple, and honest meal: beans, bread, and coffee. If the night got rough, there was always the choice of a bed in a shared dormitory, enough to recover your strength and keep moving. And then there was the luxury of hot water. In frontier towns, a bath cost about 25 cents. 4 baths for $1 might not excite a traveler in a hurry, but for a miner covered in dust, it was worth it. Each soak washed off the grime, eased tired muscles, and gave back, if only for a moment, the feeling of belonging to yourself again. Not every dollar bill was used to pay for goods. At many swinging doors, it changed the game. A quiet coin could convince the dealer to look at the ceiling, another could make the bartender pour a stronger drink. If the law was around, a greased handshake could keep you out of a cell. Slipping money to the sheriff might mean a horse waiting outside instead of iron bars. In that way, the green paper didn't just buy things, it bought silence and advantage. It's tempting to picture saloons as one-man bars. In practice, they were part of a bigger setup. Breweries and distributors covered stock and furniture in exchange for a cut. The free lunch wasn't kindness, it was bait for more rounds. Every nickel beer and every 10-cent shot existed to push the customer into blowing the whole bill before midnight. And it worked. In a good month, a cowboy might pocket around $30. In one lively night, the bar could take a generous slice of it. That's why saloons were the center of frontier towns. Cash register, post office, makeshift office, and sometimes courthouse. That's where accounts were settled and partnerships sealed. In the end, that paper was worth more than a full glass. It was worth flexible rules and open doors. A single dollar in the right pocket wasn't just spent. It set things in motion. It crossed wooden counters, changed hands at the poker table, and paid for the out-of-tune piano, fueling both business and hustles that kept the West alive. With $1, you bought a ticket into the local storyline. The guy who drank too much and kicked off a brawl. The gambler who stretched that bill into a fortune until it became legend, then lost it all in a blink. The cowboy who blew his silver on the saloon girl and retold the tale for years. In those saloons, reputations were born, grudges grew, and sideways glances pulled triggers. It wasn't just whiskey. It wasn't just cards. It was the stage where ordinary folks tested their luck. And that same dollar, when it slipped out of your pocket, left behind a trail, memories still floating around, waiting for the next hand. Putting the pieces together. In a Wild West saloon, a single dollar was a key. With it, you could buy 10 shots of whiskey, a night at the card table, cigars, tobacco, a hot bath, a dance with the saloon girl, and maybe even settle up with the sheriff to stay out of a cell. Converted to today's money, that dollar weighed like 30 or 40, enough to feed yourself, find some fun, or stir up trouble, sometimes all three in the same night. On the frontier, money wasn't just exchange, it was an invitation. With a single clink on the counter, the path opened. Drink, gamble, risk your heart, or wake up broke with a pounding head. The coin didn't just buy whiskey, it bought stories. Every toast sparked a legend. Every bet started a rumor. And now and then a name got carved into the myth of the West. If you enjoyed this trip through the Old West, hit the like button and subscribe to ride along with me on the dust trail still rising from those ancient tracks.